Well, Lakshadweep seems to be winning hearts on search engines and online booking platforms. And in India, there's a newfound love for these pristine coral islands. Make My Trip has claimed a 3,400% increase in searches for Lakshadweep. Well, as good as this is, remember, these are huge challenges as well to this. We'll get to that in a bit. But contrasting this high, there's another low unfolding between India and Maldives. Boycott Maldives has blown up. India and Maldives ties seem to be at its lowest. Even as Maldivian president is in China as a deviation from the usual India first norm. The Maldivian envoy was summoned by India earlier today. In a meeting that lasted little over 5 minutes, the envoy was told that the onus to repair the relations between India and Maldives now is on Maldives and its president, and the relations seem to have plunged into turbulent waters rather quickly over the weekend. This as Maldivian ministers, influencers took potshots at Prime Minister Modi's post promoting tourism in Lakshadweep. Potshots that soon turned into derogatory remarks by many, including 3 ministers. The counter to this from Indians on social media was swift and strong. But it didn't restrict itself to social media alone, spiraling very soon into a diplomatic crossfire amid it all. Now, an online travel and booking portal, Ease My Trip, that prides itself as Made in India brand, announced that it would not take bookings for Maldives. Indian Chambers of Commerce gave a call to boycott Maldives with direct bearings on diplomacy and people-to-people connect. Before we go any further, I'm being joined by the co-founder of Ease My Trip, Prashant Mitti, that in terms of market share claims to occupy at least 20 to 25% of market share for online booking platforms. Thank you very much, Mr. Mitti, for joining us. My first question, obviously, what made Ease My Trip take the stand that they have taken in this particular case?
Firstly, thank you so much, Sneha, for having me on your show. Sneha, this has been something which we have been watching for the last 4-5 days, where without any provocation, multiple ministers of Maldives have taken a stance to say ill things about our country and our beloved Prime Minister. Now, our PM was just doing his job, promoting one of the tourist destinations within the country, which is pristine, which is unheard of, which is unexplored, and he was well within his right to actually do that duty, and we are thankful for him to promote Lakshadweep. But all these unprovoked comments related to India, challenging India that India can never create a place like Maldives, calling our PM the puppet and others, has made us realize that if a country which is primarily running on tourism and the highest number of tourists which is sent to that country is from India, if that country cannot show respect to our country while taking all our monies, it is high time for us to stand up for ourselves, and any self-respecting citizen or a company should be able to take this stance that our money is better off spent at other places, be it within India or other places. But this kind of anguish which Maldives have shown for Ease My Trip was unexpected, and because of which we have taken a stance of being nation first and profits later.
Well, interestingly, you're a private company. Now, when you and, so many other players have come up with their versions of whatever they wanted to claim in terms of boycotting Maldives or in terms of not having bookings for Maldives or whatever versions they wanted to say, so many celebrities and influencers have come. But when you did take this kind of a stand, did you foresee the kind of spiraling effect this would have on diplomatic ties between India and Maldives, considering the outrage that the social media and influencers have witnessed in this case?
Well, honestly speaking, we did whatever we think was best in interest of the country, rather than thinking about what ramifications it may bring onto the table. And we have done something like we have done nation first, people first approach all our existence. We are a 15-year-old travel company. We are a homegrown company. Never took any investor money from outside India or even within India. There's no money which has come. So we grew primarily on the word of mouth of consumers.
I get that point. I get that point, but when you took this kind of a stand, did you expect India-Maldives ties would reach this kind of a low? I mean, I'm not saying it was because of your stand alone, but in the larger messaging.
Uh, not sure whether what we expected as a ripple effect. We just took the right decision at the right time, we believe, and but we knew that, since 30% of Maldives GDP is generated by tourism, and almost 12% of that comes from India, and we being second largest, we are in position of power. And with that position of power, we also thought that we have the responsibility, moral responsibility, to stand up for the country, and hence stop booking, at least from our portal, which should impact Maldives GDP directly. That's why we have taken this stance, and we believe that there are a lot of clarifications coming from Maldives side, but I think till the time the relationship normalizes or there is a formal apology from the government to our PM and to our country, we will keep this decision for indefinite period.
Right. Now, what are the kind of changes that you have seen since you made this announcement? Have things changed at the level that you see at the bookings and cancellations? What are the kind of changes that you've seen?
Well, firstly, there has been overwhelming support from the people of India with respect to our decision. It was a bold and courageous decision because we are actually letting go of a lot of revenues and we are passing it on to our competitors. Since till now, none of our competitors have followed the suite which we have followed. We are actually letting go of this business to our competitors. Almost 3 lakh passengers flew to Maldives in year 2021. 2022, it was about 2 lakh passengers who flew to Maldives in year 2022. We believe that we are letting go of that substantial portion of that business to stand for the nation and to stand for what is right. And I also think that at some level, Maldives probably knew that Lakshadweep is a ticking time bomb. It is as beautiful or even probably more beautiful than Maldives is. And hence, they seem to be very rattled with our honorable PM promoting Lakshadweep, and which is also a testimony to how beautiful that particular location could be. I personally visited Lakshadweep. I found the weather to be the water to be turquoise blue, the sands to be really nice, the people to be very hospitable. And I think in due course of time, we can create an international tourist spot out of Lakshadweep.
What is your take on this boycott culture, if I may say? You're also part of that now. A call to boycott anything that one opposes. Do you think this is kind of an assertive protest, or do you think it can even turn counterproductive at times?
See, I cannot speak for all the boycotts which happen in the country, but I believe that when a nation is disrespecting you, and that too out of no provocation, we hold the rights to retaliate in the best way we can. Our citizens are retaliating by pledging that they will not travel to Maldives in the future, and we as a company are pledging that we will not facilitate people traveling to Maldives. If somebody still wants to travel to Maldives, he or she has ample amount of opportunities to use other travel portals. But at Easma Trip, we have taken a stance that we are not going to be honoring it. It may be something which people say in other respects, but over here we are actually dealing with financial ramifications, and we are okay to deal with it.
Well, thank you, Mr. Prashant Mitti, for putting in your perspective. This, of course, is interesting to see that what has happened between India and Maldives at the latest front is not only through the official corridors of talks and dialogues, but it is so much steered and spearheaded by the social media and by common people or citizens, influencers who have staked claim in what they see is their national pride from at least India's perspective. Now, but what does this really mean for Maldives? India, according to the latest data, Well, according to the latest data, India accounts for the largest share of tourists to visit Maldives in 2023. That's a huge number. While tourism is the mainstay for Maldives, India and Maldives partnership goes beyond just this. India has trained over 1,400 Maldives defense personnel. And if you think this number is small, let me put this in context. The total Maldivian strength is just at 4,000 personnel. Apart from the critical last mile connectivity projects, India also played a crucial role in rushing vaccinations to Maldives during COVID pandemic. Now, these are just the broader highlights that I have mentioned here. India and Maldives relationship is deep, is time bound, and has gone back, it dates back to history of several decades for that matter. But a lot seems to be changing with Maldives as well. The newly elected president has chosen to visit China first before India, a sharp deviation from the usual norm. Remember, even as we speak, the Maldivian president is in China along with top government delegates. Now, even as experts and India watch this very closely. Soon after elections, Maldives' newly elected president Muizzu asked India to withdraw its troops. But for now, in an effort to firefight the current tension, the president has had to sack 3 of his ministers for the derogatory remarks made against Prime Minister Modi. I'm being joined right now by Ahmed Adib, who's the former vice president of Maldives. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Well, India has summoned the Maldivian envoy, and India has said that the onus is on Maldives to repair its ties with India. How do you really look at this?
Yeah, actually, this is something that should have never happened. These sentiments were very hurtful, very racist, and I believe that government should have been swift in removing them, not only suspending them, but also declaring a formal apology, as well as reaching out personally to by the president of Maldives, to government of India and Prime Minister Modi as well, because this has hurt so many sentiments of Indians, as well as now it has blown up to a full diplomatic crisis between the two countries. So it should be sorted out soon, rather than letting it, escalate.
Now, do you think with the current turn of events, the relations between India and Maldives are at their lowest? I mean, how does Maldives view this?
Yeah, I would say I have never seen anything like this, because I've been Minister of Tourism also for 5 years. So I have never seen such. I mean, just because of unresponsible comments. I mean, we have never seen this kind of backlash in this, in our history of tourism as well, because India is now number one market for Maldives, as well as the response from the Bollywood, as well as the private sector, the tour operators, and the Chamber of Commerce of India as well. So I think it is a very sad that this situation escalated, and I think this should be sorted out very soon. Otherwise, we're going to have a big impact on tourism, which will directly hit our economy of Maldives.
So I understand that there was an election recently. The ties of India and Maldives have seen multiple of these elections in both the countries. The ties are not just, for that matter, diplomatic or political. There's a strong cultural and social bond as well. What was the context that these ministers, chose to make such derogatory statements? Is there a sign of changing politics within Maldives as well?
They used it as a campaign slogan. It was started by former President Yamin, but they used it as a campaign thing against that at that time the government of President Solih, because President Solih was very close with India. India helped us to get through the COVID and after COVID as well. So just as a political thing, they started it. But I never thought that after coming into the government, they should be more responsible, because they are not anymore the political activists. They are They are the ruling party, and they are responsible not only for the government but also the livelihood of Maldivians. It depends on tourism and as well as the international relations we have. So I never thought that it will, as you said, after elections, people change, and when they are in the government, they are more responsible and more diplomatic. But we are missing to see that, and it's very sad it happened, and which shouldn't have happened, which is not acceptable in any way. So it's surprising to see this. So I think the government always should take more action and make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Well, damage already seems to be done, sir. And while the government may not have, officially said anything, people in India on social media have come out with very strong stands. There are boycott Maldives hashtags which are now on as well. Celebrities, influencers, travel portals have come out saying we won't take bookings for Maldives. Several such moves as a very strong reaction to what to the derogatory remarks that emerged from Maldives and subsequent comments as well. How is this going to impact Maldives? What are the local sentiments around this? How do locals view this?
I think Maldivians are concerned. There has been cancellations, and then it's blowing up every hour. I would say, even if we monitor the social media, we see that. So what should have been, we should respond it and try to sort it out, this issue as soon as possible. Otherwise, if we let it escalate to a full blown, it already has been a diplomatic crisis. If we let it, go forward, I think it will really impact our fragile tourism industry and economy as well. So I think the current everyone is concerned. I can see from the sentiments of our social media, a lot of politicians, a lot of opposition and ex-government people has commented on this, and it should be sorted out as soon as possible.
The way the relations have very quickly spiraled, have people in Maldives been taken aback with the kind of flack that they have drawn, particularly after these controversial remarks and so many comments on social media as well, first from Maldives? Have people been taken aback by surprise?
Yes, I'm taken aback because I have never seen this through my career, because I've been the tourism minister. So if I was in the government, I would not even sleep, because it's a full blown crisis. We see, as you said, it's everything is in social media, and how it's escalating. It's going to impact really to the tourism industry and as well as the economy of Maldives. If so, we have to take more action. We are a small country with a fragile economy. We should we should take it. If I was in the I would have taken it more positively. Where the development of Lakshadweep, India is blessed with Lakshadweep and Andaman Islands. If they develop, the region develops, and it benefits everyone. It complements each other. So this should be understood by the government of Maldives. They should be more receptive and more supportive towards other. But this crisis, I would say, I have never seen something like this. As you said, it's not driven by the government, but also the private sector, also the public is coming out, because sentiments of Indians has been heard. And it's very sad to see this. And I would say Maldivians should be very responsible, and especially those who are in government should be very responsible.
Now, are you seeing any steps taken by the government of Maldives to reach out to India at the highest levels? Is there something politically moving towards resolving this issue with India? Are you seeing any movement in that line?
I think, as you see, they have gone the current president, and most of the government is in China at the moment. So the opposition is voicing out. Everyone is kind of concerned on that. But I am waiting to see what is the decision of the government. What are the next steps they will take? I think the ambassador in India was also summoned today. So we are waiting also to see what is going to happen. But my suggestion is that the government of Maldives should quickly respond and sort out this issue before it gets out of hand.
Well, even as this is unfolding between India and Maldives, uh, Maldivian president and government delegation has now visited China first in otherwise India first policy. At least that used to be the usual norm. Do you think it will affect our relationship?
Yeah, normally there's a norm that every president who gets elected, the first state visit to India, but it has been different at this time. And President Moise has visited Turkey and then now China. So it is in just 60 days into his government. So we are yet to see what are the agreements, what are the decisions he's going to make in China. I think that will show us what's the decisions going to be going forward diplomatically.
No, but is this a political issue within Maldives right now that, the president of Maldives visited Turkey first, then China rather than India? Is this a talking point within Maldives?
Yeah, within Maldives, there is concerns for that because the opposition MDP has already raised their concerns. And I believe that, Maldives as a close neighbor, we should balance our diplomacy because we should start from the neighborhood and then go beyond. So that has been the policy for the last successive governments. So there is concern for that.
Right. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us with this very important perspective and for speaking to us from Maldives. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, even as we try and understand the complex layers of this critical issue, including what has spiraled as a diplomatic low between Maldives as well as India, there's also another aspect to it. And that is, people are saying boycott Maldives as a result to the derogatory remarks that were made against Indian Prime Minister by Maldives ministers and several other influencers. That is now going to be a win for Lakshadweep. Well, is that really true? While many would like that to happen, and of course, the search for the word Lakshadweep has only manifoldly increased across search engines for that matter as well. But we must remember the balance between a rush of tourist footfalls and responsible tourism in what is otherwise a very ecological sensitive terrain with at least 36 coral islands inhabited by 95% of population being scheduled tribes. Now, not all the islands of Lakshadweep are inhabited. However, at least 95% of the islands that are inhabited are scheduled tribes. And that's why you have this whole idea of even requiring permits to enter Lakshadweep. So is this backlash against Maldives good and beneficial for Lakshadweep? How is Lakshadweep looking at it? Is Lakshadweep ready to welcome a larger number of footfall? I'm being right now joined by Mohammad Faisal. He is the only elected member of parliament for Lakshadweep. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Well, my first question is, Lakshadweep is making headlines as a top destination for travelers on search platforms, on tourism platforms, or even as part of the diplomatic laws between India and Maldives. Lakshadweep is now being mentioned. As the only elected representative of Lakshadweep, how do you really look at all of this?
See, there are two aspects in it. One is the internal part of India, where Honorable Prime Minister is advocating himself for the tourism development of Lakshadweep. On that, Maldives have nothing to do with it. And such a comment is totally unwanted. And these ministers who have made such a comment should have avoided that. Number one. Number two, as far as the bilateral relationship with the Maldives is concerned, as far as Lakshadweep, and you know that one of the island of Lakshadweep called Minikoi shares the same language, same cuisine, same attire and culture-wise. And even I think there are even blood relatives among Minikoi and Maldives. Minikoi is the southernmost island of Lakshadweep, and from there it is just 70 nautical miles to the northernmost island of Maldives. So we always, consider Maldives as our one of our best neighbor. We always wanted to be as our friendly country. Now, one point here is that let Maldives, together, let us grow together, rather than making any elusive statement or loose statement. It is to benefit both of us, both the countries, and the trades, the tourism, and on aspect, everybody should progress. That's what my call on this.
Right. I mean, Lakshadweep is being searched for a lot on social media, on tourism platforms. We don't know how much of this would really transform into real-time tourists for that matter. But looks like the footfall is sure bound to rise. Is Lakshadweep ready for this?
At the present point, as you said, we are, short of infrastructure. That is true. The flights which operate is only one flight is operating now, which is Alliance Air. This is an ATR flight. What the government have to take a call, at least these Alliance Air, if they operate 3 or 4 sorties in a day, this demands could meets a certain extent. On the other hand, also there are infrastructure shortages also, where the accommodation, as of now, the capacity which we have is not really on the accommodative part, which the demand is showing. So obviously we need another 1 years of time to build up all the infrastructures, so that the present demand can be accommodated.
Tourism, employment, income generation, all of this is so critical. But do you see responsible tourism as something that is immediately possible in the current scenario? Is that practically doable for Lakshadweep, considering 95% of people living in Lakshadweep are scheduled tribes?
So for that, one cannot do anything its own, because entire tourism perspective is drawn by a plan, a Bible called Integrated Island Management Plan. This is not my plan, nor the administration plan, a plan of a committee which was constituted by the Supreme Court of India. And that committee has outlined the things, what to do and what not to do. So any development or any structures or anything which has to be happened in the island, which is within the purview of this outline, or if anything goes beyond, it is a challengeable one. So Lakshadweep is an area where it is ecologically fragile. We have to accept that. Without ecological bearability of the entire area, one can develop the tourism. So obviously, it cannot have a mass footing of the tourism. We have a carrying capacity declared. With that carrying capacity, only one island can, withhold the tourists. How many tourists can land at a point of time? So that is already declared. So everything, whatever the things going to happen, is already a plan, a guidelines is already outlined. With that, it is going to happen. So it on a rush way, on a faster way, it cannot do anything. Everything has to go by this guidelines.
Right. No, but on a lighter note, and I know you may not really see eye to eye with the center when it comes to politics, but have the photos posted by the Prime Minister turned to be, according to you, one of the biggest promotions for brand Lakshadweep?
I'm very 100% stand by that, because the Honorable Prime Minister staying in the island one day, staying, and he's utilizing all his time to explore the possibilities of tourism there. He went into the waters, done snorkeling. I think not scuba diving, he has done snorkeling. Then glass bottom ride, have seen the beauty beaches, and on that he made a speech. So that actually कोई महसूस करके बात करने में थोड़ा सा वो आ जाता है. So that is what I have seen, because I was on the dais when the Honorable PM was delivering his speech. So he himself has experienced the potential of the island. So absolutely, obviously, there is no doubt on that this is a wonderful destination to come and explore. And that falls in India, where world looks for Maldives and all, going somewhere else. The same facilities, same things, same destination. If it is in India, why can't we explore that?
Right, my last question, sir. Lakshadweep is not easy to access. You need special permits as such. What's the message you want to give amid this newfound love for these beautiful, pristine coral islands?
That's true. It's an entry-restricted area. For that, coming to Lakshadweep is not as easy as going to somewhere else. So Lakshadweep, of course, we wanted to make the things very easy and accessible to the people. Even the permit system we have now made online for the easy purpose of it. And we wanted to have, that peculiarity of Lakshadweep is Aditi Devo Bhava. Anybody wants, even if you don't know the person, we will offer a cup of tea. That is our culture and things we have been following all these years. That is the gift we have been gifted by our forefathers. So we welcome all the world to Lakshadweep, and we would love you to come and explore our scenic beauty and things, provided protecting our environment. This is the message I have to give.
Right. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us with your perspective. Of course, this is so much more a complex issue than just a win or a loss for any one party in this particular context. I'm right now being joined by Suresh Goyal, who's a former ambassador, as well as Kishore Subramanian, who's a financial and economy expert. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. Well, Suresh Goyal, my first question to you. There was a time when the two countries, any two countries for that matter, would very strongly be positioned through diplomatic channels. Their ties would be defined by closed-door diplomacy, by diplomatic channels. And then came a time when people-to-people contact became a very crucial part of soft power, of soft diplomacy. And now there seems to be a totally different tirade. And as you see unfold with what has happened between India and Maldives, the bulk of this has been steered through social media.
Yes. So what is the question?
So
Sorry.
How do you see these
me?
changing dimensions? How do you see these changing dimensions?
Look,
Is it a new chapter in diplomacy between two countries, that two countries really need to be catering to this now?
As I was saying, diplomacy between two countries is a question of developing and talking about relations through all possible mechanisms which are available to them. Initially, when the diplomacy began millennium ago, then people used to travel with the documents, there would be ambassadors, there were no communications, there were no facts, there was nothing. And therefore, this was a different kind of a diplomacy altogether. Today, the communications have developed. There are different platforms to develop public opinion, to develop information, to develop communication. So there's an entirely different paradigm. Now, social media in a sense is very, very actively changing, influencing the public opinion and developing a kind of a public profile for whatever the views are. Now, like in the case of Maldives, suddenly, after what happened about Lakshadweep, the tweets, one tweet from Prime Minister Modi, then 3 tweets from Maldivian ministers, it has changed the complete complexion of how we think about each other, because it has gone into a much, much larger public domain, changing the public opinion of the two countries. So yes, social media is an influencer. It affects the public opinion, which is an important part of the diplomacy.
Before I go to our next panelist, just one question. Do you see this social media angle? Are diplomats now trained and equipped to handle the social media wave that may really take or steer diplomacy and talks into a tyrant that they may not be expecting, or perhaps they may be, but it's literally fueled in that direction. Does it even matter at the diplomatic level?
Today I can assure you, the social media has become so much part of diplomacy, so much part of what we do. We use social media all the time. Twitter, Instagram.
Even as diplomats?
Lots of material coming on
Even
Instagram.
As diplomats?
Yes, absolutely. We are not like with our neck ostriches. Our necks are not buried in the sand. We see the world around us and behave accordingly. Yes.
Right. Mr. Kishore Subramanian, it's very interesting, there are the kind of responses that have emerged from India as well as Maldives. But at the heart of it all, one is people-to-people contact, but it's also about numbers. It's also about brands. It's also about social coding. It's about branding. It's about how your investors may react in a particular case, about which brand has foreign investors, which doesn't. There are so many layers to what has come out of it. Could you break this down in terms of numbers? It's not easy to say the loss for Maldives is going to be the win for India. It's not always a straight equation like this. But broadly, what do the numbers say?
The numbers, there are multiple angles to it because it's not numbers on economic front also. Let's understand certain basic numbers at the heart of it. See, Maldives is a very, very tiny island with a population of 5 odd lakhs, and out of which, 2 lakh tourists every year, 17 lakh odd tourists, 1.7 million tourists are visiting it every year, out of which 2 lakh tourists are from India. So that's a substantial proportion of their tourists. And you also need to understand that India is proximate to Maldives. So if you look at the economic size of Maldives, it's a very small economy since it only has 5 lakh people. It's a $6 billion economy. Out of $6 billion economy, you already have 30% plus dependent on tourism. At that point, a tweet or any stance or position that is officially taken by the government is going to, one, have an economic impact. Point number two, when a nation is dependent on tourism, there are organizations which are going to run their daily bread and butter through tourism. So if you see the tourism minister or anybody who is representing the tourist body of Maldives are having a big issue because they know it's going to hit their daily cash flow straight. Third point, in terms of economics, there is a reverse also. Now, if you look at India, forget about Lakshadweep or Andaman or whichever island we are going to promote. Social media is such a big influence that today you have got reports. I'm not authenticating any of these reports, but 8,500 hotel bookings cancelled, 2,500 tickets cancelled. So it's a barrage happening there, and all because some Mariyam Madam Minister wanted to tweet, and as I tweeted yesterday on the same thing, that this has created a world record of a unique kind where an individual has tweeted and made the maximum loss of economy to a nation, 150 characterless tweet. They had no business to do that. On the
is it unprecedented?
Front,
are you then establishing that in history it is unprecedented?
Absolutely unprecedented. Tell me one time where a Twitter war erupted, no government officials involved, no officials from the ministry involved, nobody from the government even opened their mouth till now. Barring the MEA calling the Maldives people, nothing has happened here. What has exactly happened is that a Twitterati war has outblown and it has gone. The Maldives minister, all the 3 ministers who have been suspended, had no business to use derogatory language. There was no official Indian stand, and the Indian Prime Minister, Honorable Modi ji, was promoting tourism in India, which he rightfully has and as a duty and right to do it. So the economic impact, see, Maldives has more to lose. Let us understand that, first of all, India is a friend and not a foe. Whether it is water crisis, whether it is humanitarian crisis, whether it is COVID crisis, India has been always helping Maldives. So I think that they jolly well did not have any business to do that. So India is not to be hit. It is a strategic position politically. It is a strategic position in the Indian Ocean area. But remember, Maldives will be economically hit. Not to forget and not to mention many individual companies. You could see what happened in the Indian stock market. The company Ease My Trip, who officially announced, their stock went up 5%. This is not even economics. This is not even proper investing. It will have economic impact. Long term, I do not know. These things can die down because it started in Twitter. It might end in social media, Twitter, anywhere. But my thing is, multiple economic impacts are going to happen. So it is a message to all loud and clear. One needs to use social media responsibly, and you need to be responsive, and you can't go berserk with derogatory comments.
Right. Right. Mr. Suresh Goyal, could you think of a precedent, or do you think this is unprecedented when you look at the way when there was a derogatory statement, a series of derogatory statements made by elected representatives in Maldives against the Prime Minister of India, before even the government swung into action, we don't even know whether the government has objected to this language. Whether it, in backdoor talks has objected or not, it of course called the envoy, summoned the envoy and said it's for Maldives now to repair the relations. But even before the government swung into action, a whole force from within India was fighting for what they say was India's image, India's pride, and derogatory remarks against India's head, against India's prime minister. Is this the kind of backlash that has been seen and the diplomatic row that further spiraled? Is this unprecedented?
I don't
The force
know.
of
I
this?
mean, basically, difficult to recall precedents at a short notice like this. But the social media has been in active use in diplomatic community for a very, very long time. But to relate to a backlash, reaction will be But for example, in the USA, I recall several examples, several places. You recall Trump. He uses Meta so regularly, and there are all kinds of reactions. But in this particular case, I like to just point out two things. Number one, it is not like it was just started by the individual people, non-governmental people. The first reaction actually happened when
Right.
the apology came from President Muizu after the Indian High Commission in Mali had taken up the
Right.
case of the derogatory remarks with the Maldivian government. And then there was an apology issued by the President Muizu on again X, which was taken off later on. And then the Indian industry swung into action. Now, whether Indian industry
Right.
swung into action, there were chambers who inspired them. So it was a coordinated, concerted kind of a move, I would say.
All right. Thank you very much. We're totally out of time. Remember, all of these things are happening even as Maldivian president is in China. A deviation from what usually would be India first visit norm. That also is being very closely watched by India. Time for a short break.